Recording in. Welcome to another amazing sacred conversation that's going to happen. How do I know? Because I always trust my guides and the beautiful women who accept my invitation. And today it's, excuse me here. See, I'm even nervous about saying your name, Rodine. I've had to practice what this means. So we've been having a little bit of a giggle beforehand, everybody, because hopefully, well, I'd like Rodine to explain to you where her name comes from, Isfeld. It's been such a pleasure watching your journey and being around you on Instagram and Facebook. And this is a wonderful way of how we meet each other and see each other's energies and creativity. And this is why I wanted to bring Rodine into my life and into one of these sacred conversations, because I love her energy, her creativity, because at the moment, that is what I'm finding, is to trust myself to create. And that's also part of my healing journey. Welcome, Rodine. Love to hear your story. Can you please explain your name so people understand, and then how to announce it properly?
Absolutely. My name, Rodine, is half of my father's name, Rodney, and half of my mother's name, Christine. So my father told me, actually, he was rather funny when I asked him. He said, well, you didn't look like a regular kid, so we couldn't just give you a regular name. So, but that's the story of my name, and it makes it easier to pronounce because the way it's written, nobody really knows how to pronounce it. So, yeah.
And I love the way you were able to go roar. So we were roaring behind the scenes. And in fact, it's really appropriate because my partner and I are getting ready to go back to Africa this year on a safari. And I've been looking at, I can't see, not tigers, they're India, sorry, leopards and lions. So it's quite appropriate.
Perfect.
That we're doing that. So here we go. And I'll be most probably go to Africa and go, I hear a roar, Rodine. Anyhow, sorry, I don't want to make light of your name or anything like that, because it's really powerful. And how did you feel when your father said that to you? That you were not, what was the words? Not unusual, that you were different.
Well, he said I didn't look like a normal child, right. A normal baby. And how did I feel? He was actually right. I didn't really fit the mold for most small children. I've always had this connection to God and to the universe and spirit. And so I was for my parents, I was kind of a wacky kid because I would come out with things, I would say things, and they didn't really know what to do with me. So the name is actually quite appropriate in his explanation. It's like, oh, did you know something?
Yeah.
So
it's like he knew. It's like he knew.
Yeah. And I love my name. In high school, of course, you get teased and everything can be tough. But I absolutely love my name. It feels completely me. So
yeah, love it.
Yeah.
I love it, because I don't know how many of you, anyone who's watching, feels that. Because I know for me, we'll talk about this a bit beforehand. My name's Chantal. I was born in Australia, even though my father was French. We did live in Europe. But I did find it really hard because people couldn't pronounce it. It was different, so I stood out. And at the time I didn't like it. It took me a long time to actually go, I really own it and feel into it. Now I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly it, isn't it?
It is. And it's the vibration, because even though I've also learned over the years, we don't need to be defined by our name and how we were born, but it is still an energetic there's still something there,
It is. And if you've really attached to your name, like I feel the way I have with the energy, I think it does also really kind of represent our essence, right?
Yes, I agree. Yes.
And that when you finally connect to that, it just feels so beautiful, right? Yeah, I love it.
Thank you. And I'm just going right into I can really feel that all through my body, because even though when I was born in Perth, we didn't have many foreigners here in Perth. many years ago. So my dad at that point in France, it was English names were very fashionable. He wanted to call me Maud, which would be Maud in French.
Yes.
And my mother, when finally the lady next to her saw, I don't know how she contacted mum after, she said, "Oh, thank God you didn't call your daughter Maud." I thought, damn, I wish he had, because it would have made it so much simpler. But now I realize, no, it wasn't vibrationally correct. And I agree with you. You connect to that. And this is going to segue into, you are a teacher during the day, but you are this amazing intuitive artist. And what we'll be doing later on, we will be putting links to Rodine's, I've got blank there because I was so excited about getting your name right. Excuse me, everyone. This is one of those moments of, okay, I'm going to put all the links in there because I love your posts coming up into my feed. I love the color, the vibrancy. So would you like to sort of segue, perhaps, intuitive artist, how did you come about loving this?
It's, you know what? Intuitive artist, and I'm also an accidental artist because I don't have any formal training. Okay. And I didn't even know, I've always been creative, but I really had no idea that I could paint until I think it was, well, how old am I now? My early 30s.
Yes.
And I discovered that totally by accident because I worked, at the time I was an educational assistant and I worked with children with disabilities. And I was working with one of my students in art class. She was busy and I thought, oh, I'm just going to play with the paint. And so I just literally played with the paint and I made this little picture and I was like, oh, isn't that cute? And put it, on my coffee break, put it on the table, getting my coffee. And I could hear teachers talking and they're like, whose is this? Where did it come from? Oh, it must be the art teachers. And someone else said, well, if it's here at the end of the day, I'm taking it. And I turned around and I looked at the teachers and I said, well, it's mine. They're like, we didn't know you were an artist. I said, no, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet that was the first thing I painted. And it caused a stir and I did give it away. I said, oh, please help yourself. And so from there, that was the start of me then deciding I'm going to try this painting. And I loved Bob Ross growing up. Are you familiar with Bob Ross? He was in Canada. He had a show and in half an hour, he would paint these beautiful paintings. And I just always watched him and went, oh, wow, this is so cool. And he worked in oils. So I decided I wanted to try and paint in oils. And I got myself my first set of Bob Ross brushes and the paints. And I had no idea what the heck I was going to do with them, but I was going to paint. And I did take 3 classes through one of our local art stores. And the very first painting that I did, the first class, the art teacher came up to me when we were done and said, wow, your painting is gorgeous and you've done such an incredible job. She said, how long have you been painting? And I said, this is my first time. And she stood back and looked at me and went, you're kidding, right? I said, no, I'm serious. And she said, you have an instinctive touch with the paints. She said, she couldn't believe that was the first time I had ever painted. And so from there, I trusted my instincts. I would pull out canvases and I just painted, and I started painting Northern Lights. And they just flowed out of me. And I can see them where I live. I grew up seeing them in the night sky. And they've always had this kind of magnetism and magic for me. So to be able to create them on a canvas was like incredible, like just incredible. And I also then moved into, I had an experience because after painting intuitively and looking at my work and liking it, but still being at the beginning of my journey, I thought, okay, I've got to take some lessons because isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Yes.
So I signed up for a lesson, brought in some of the work that I had done, and that teacher, he ripped my paintings apart, like ripped them apart. And this was, in front of the other people in the class. And he said, well, I don't even know what you want me, like, what do you want to learn? And I said, well, I want to learn what I do, but better, because I loved what I created. And I said, I want to paint big. And he said, you're never going to paint big. You don't have the talent and you don't have the skills. And at break, I packed up my stuff and I went to my car and I called my best friend and I cried and I sobbed and I said, I'm not an artist. I can't do this. Like, who do I think I am? I'm obviously what I do is garbage. And she lovingly let me cry and, did all the beautiful things best friends do. And she's like, what you do is amazing. And I said, no, a monkey can do what I do. And she let me cry for probably about 30 more seconds. And then she said, okay, first of all, she said, I don't ever want to hear you say a monkey could do what you do. She said, I don't ever want to hear you say that again, because what you create is beautiful and you need to own that. Yes. And she said, and now that you've cried, she said, now you are going to remember that his opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And you are going to go home. She said, have your pity party. She said, I'll give you like another 24 hours. And after that, you are going to go back to being the artist that you are. Yeah. So I did. And I decided, screw you. And I went out, and at the time I bought this canvas size behind me. So this is 4 feet by 5 feet.
Wow.
It's huge.
Wow, that's I can't even.
It's huge. I know.
Oh, that would frighten me beyond measure. At the moment, I'm just doing this.
I splurged because canvases were so expensive.
Yes.
And I think I spent like $150 on the canvas. And I was a single mom and I had a daughter to take care of. And here I was spending this money. And I was like, I'm doing it. Set it up in my kitchen. And then it sat there for a while because I am intuitive. I didn't know what I was going to paint. And the canvas talks to me. The canvases always tell me what they want to become.
Yes.
So I have to wait. So I had this huge canvas set up on my easel in my kitchen. My daughter and I had to walk around it and move it out of the way because I have a small kitchen, right? So I shuffled that canvas around, I think, for about 2 weeks, but I didn't put it away. And then one day I walked in and it said, I want to be a prairie. And I looked at it and I went, you what? You what? I don't know how to do that. Like, I had this conversation and it said, no, you do. And I want to be a prairie. And so
Unbelievable.
I painted this prairie. It took, I think I have about 40 hours of work in this piece.
Wow. Wow.
And I love it. It represented that moment for me where I really stepped into being who I am and being an artist and knowing that the beauty that came out of me was meant to be there.
Love it.
It was so incredible. And then I entered it in the small town where I grew up. I entered it in the art show there, and it won an award.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's a real, what you're sharing here is a gift that despite someone being so, well, I'm going to use the word horrible to you, really putting you down, that could have really shut you up, shut you down.
That could have, I could have never touched a brush after that, right?
I'm not, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is the gift that you are, by sharing this part of your story, you're giving to others to say, you know, and you had a beautiful friend and you had the right friend at the right time who went, okay, I'll accept. Because I had a friend say to me years ago, she and a friend did this, do you want the pity, the woe is me? Oh, yes, I'll give you what you hear. Or do you want me to be blunt with you? So she gave you, which I love, the space to go, yep, have your pity party. Because let's face it, we need to allow that to come out now. You were hurt, angry, distressed. Yet she also gave you a finite. So I learned over the years too that when I was feeling sorry for myself or yucky, I reduced it from having 48 hours. I say, right, just for a couple of days, I'm going to allow myself to be in this space, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot less because I don't need to be. And it's so freeing because it's like, okay, just for these. And then tell everyone, stay out of my way. You value your life, you stay away, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then I love this. The beauty that comes out of me is meant to be, again, this, we can translate that into anything that we do. As it doesn't have to be art, does it? It can be anything.
No, it can be whatever it is that you are called to do.
Yeah. Whatever it is you're called. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think also, I don't see what I'm loving about your story is, and which is different, particularly from mine, and others, you know, who are listening, share. I didn't know what I was called to. I'd been so shut down. It took me a long time to actually open up and understand.
Leave that.
You know, because when you have been through trauma, or whether it be small trauma, big trauma, childhood, whatever it might be, or one-off experience, you lose sight of that. I mean, I never knew until recently that I've got all these amazing things. And I know what I'm being called to do now, you know? So remember, everyone, it's never too late. You're never too old.
No, never, ever, ever. And it's always it's always so incredible how the universe works with us to get us there, right?
Yes, yes.
Because and certainly as I'm becoming even more grounded in over the last couple of years, is just anchoring into that knowing.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Even when you question it and go, what? Oh, I don't know about that. Or it's scary or whatever. It's like, just anchor into it and go with it. That is what's going to just bring you that bliss in life, even when life isn't so great, right?
Yes.
It's that connection. Yeah.
Love it. And it is about connection. And it is about, remember, what was her name? She's Susan, who did Feel the Fear in Any Way. Just gone blank on her name. And at the time, I remember reading her book. She was very big in the 80s, I think. Oh, I've just gone completely blank. But Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Now, I don't always subscribe because you need to feel safe. But it is, in a way, you've done it a beautifully gentle way. Do it anyhow. You know, even when you are questioning it. step out, because that is where, as you said, the bliss comes. In my, I use words growth, expansion, joy,
Yes.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love coming back to what you were saying when you first started. You played, you were an EA, and you were playing with the children. See, again, this is what I've learned through working with
Yes.
Buddhists and monks. It's about having that curiosity of a child.
It is.
You know, explain, like the children sit down, which what you did, which I couldn't do until recently, and they just sit down. They're not worried about what it looks like, whether that color is meant to be there, a tree's meant to be green. They just do it.
Yeah.
Then they
And
sit there and go, look what I've done.
Yes. My grandson is 5, and so when he comes for sleepovers, he always wants to paint.
Love it.
So, and I do the same thing. I just, what colors do you want? And he tells me the colors, and I give him a canvas, and he goes and does, and so he has his own art kit at home. And every piece for him that he creates is a masterpiece. And I love that. Every piece, so proud of, and he wants to gift it to the world, gift it to me, or gift it to mom. And I watch him do that, and I think that is what we need more of, right?
Yes.
Love it.
So do I. Oh my God, you're just giving. So I'm trying here not to show you what I've been creating, because I've been doing things. I actually started my first ever, and I will show it. So excuse me, everyone. I'm going to do this. It's my first ever visual diary. I've never done this before. And a bit like I'm still learning. But I've started. So again, I'm going to have joy, because I have actually started sharing on social media as well, because it took a little bit. So coming back to what you're saying, when you have been through a PTSD or trauma, we often find, as you said, it's very vulnerable to actually share and open up. So it's actually can be part of your healing journey. So that's something I'd like you to share if it has been. So look, this is the first what I've been creating. You know, and okay, that way.
Wow, those are beautiful.
And look at this, you know. Oh, and what I'm finding interesting, what you're saying, like what I have in mind and what comes out are two completely off the wall. So I've had to really let go of perfection. I've had to really let go of it doesn't matter, because I just gone with intuition. I just allowed it to flow. So we're going to Africa this year, as I said. So I've started creating, creating hot air ballooning. So I'm bringing in the feeling. Anyhow, this is about you, but you know, it's about
beautiful.
Thank you. I'm sharing it. I can't believe that I'm actually sharing it.
Chantal, those are so vibrant, and the energy in them is gorgeous. Oh, thank you for sharing that with me.
Pleasure. Well, I appreciate it, because as I said to you, I love what you're doing. You keep me motivated in a way. You keep me, because I love your colors and vibrancy. And again, it's about how do you find yourself in whatever you're doing. So I know for me, and this is why I love your work, because I love color, strength of color. But tell me, has it been part of healing anything for you doing this? What has it done for you in your life?
It has. It was a part in the beginning. It was a way for me, I think, honestly, to really connect my soul with everything else, right?
Yes.
That it was that exploration as well, that exploration of self.
Yes.
But it just recently literally saved my life.
Okay.
So during, I'm a teacher, I have a classroom, and with all of the pandemic stuff and the fear that was so high in the beginning and so constant, and I love my students, and going to work, everything changed all the time, and we had to be so fluid, but being fluid, but yet so restricted. And day after day after day, what finally happened to me was that I stopped being able to take care of myself. I would go in and be so concerned about my students and so busy taking care of that when I got home, I had nothing left. And I'm also used to handling everything, right? I'm always okay and I don't need help and I make everything work. And about roughly a year into all of that, I realized that I wasn't okay at all. I functioned at school, but I came home and I didn't know who I was. I couldn't function. I wasn't eating. It was that kind of, I equate it now to I feel like we have emotional backpacks that, we carry things with us. And my backpack was just full of stuff that I didn't need, but felt like would protect me. Right.
Okay. Love it. Sorry, love it. I love the analogy. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And so I had to take a leave from work because I needed time to heal. And that healing, so the last year and a half have been really, initially awful. And anybody who's experienced severe depression and severe anxiety, PTSD, right, is the umbrella that can fall under.
Yes.
You know what that feels like and how hopeless and how terrifying it is. I didn't think I was ever going to be okay again. I didn't know how. And as you start to heal and start to look at the layers as you can, it just feels like so much, right?
Yes.
Every little thing is so big and so heavy, right? Yeah. And after, I'm not even sure, I went on a leave in an October, was it last October? Oh my goodness, time is like melding together, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I went on my leave in October and it was November. And all of a sudden, I kept getting the message. I kept feeling I had to paint. It's like you have to paint.
Yes.
I hadn't painted in those years. Because how can you, right? So the one thing that I loved and that fueled me and filled me up was the first thing to disappear.
That's right.
Yeah. So to be feeling and knowing that I'm supposed to now pick up paints, I'm like, are you kidding? I don't feel like painting. I don't know what it made no sense, but I did it. And so and it was oils, not acrylics. I pulled out my oils and I set up my easel and I put the canvas on it. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to be? And it said Northern Lights. And I was like, wow, I haven't painted my Northern Lights in like 20 years. What am I going to do? I don't even know how anymore.
Yes.
But I trusted. And as I was setting everything up, I like the feel of the brushes in my hands again, and the bristles and the smell, like turpentine and the old oils, and prepping the canvas and everything about it, with every single little thing that I did before I touched the brush to the canvas, and then prepping the canvas and laying the colors. And with every single step, I felt myself coming back together.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Putting my brush to the canvas to make my first Northern Light, it was like, I'm home.
Yes.
I'm home, right?
Yes.
So my art, for me, it was painting, really did, I believe, save my life because I was so disconnected. I'm all teary-eyed now. Um,
Thank you.
yeah,
And thank you for sharing. Yeah.
it
Thank you.
did. I believe it saved my life. And I think that creativity for anybody can do exactly that. It can just keep you connected, and it can give you a space where all you have to do is just let whatever is inside of you flow out. And that can
Yes.
be
Yes.
whatever it is, right?
Yes. I love that because I did it through writing. For me, it was words for years and years and years.
Okay.
And I became creative with my words. So thank you. I just feel so touched
Oh,
that
thank
you had the
you.
courage to share that because, like you said, we talked about beforehand, we don't understand trauma as big T's, little T's.
Yeah.
You know, and when you are strong and independent, something like that happens. Who am I? No, others perhaps didn't go that way. So thank you for that vulnerability
Yes.
and rawness, because it's about showing people having a reaction like that can happen anytime for any reason.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
and it can be vicarious. And here you are. You went from this beautiful, strong woman, you know, doing art to then
Yeah.
suddenly. I did the same after my car accident. The car accident itself was innocuous. Yes, I had severe whiplash
Oh,
injuries. But like Peter Levine says, and I keep bringing this up in order because I love it, it's what you bring to that moment. So like you, I lost myself. So when you said those words, I was going, oh my God, I lost myself again. Would I ever come through? Who am I? Who have I become? I'm not work. It's like you. But for me, it was words, which now I'm translating into art. That's why I
and
showed that visual. That's why I was so excited when you said, yes, you talk and share your journey, even though you did feel anxious at
mhm.
first because you haven't shared it. Thank you for sharing your tears.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me a really beautiful and safe space to do that. And when you had asked me if I would like to come on and have this conversation with you, my instinct said absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt. So, and
Thank you.
that is part of your gift too, right? To create that space for people. How beautiful is that?
And I appreciate that. And I really, oh, I've just gone crazy. I hear that. And you know,
Mm.
something also what I'm loving about what you're doing and showing me too, it's okay for us to own. It's okay for me to own what you've just said to me because I do know that's my gift.
Yes.
But that little voice can still come in, can't it? You know, your gift is your art. And this is going to come because we're coming to the end. This is your art. You do commissions, you share. So thank you. So how did you, so coming to this point, how can someone reach out to you? In what way can they do that? Can they also, just got an idea, and I don't know, do they share their story with you when you do commissions? So just give us a bit of an idea as we're coming to the end, what you do and how people can contact you.
Absolutely. The easiest way to find me is on social media.
Okay.
So on Facebook, Rodine Isfeld, but I have my business page, Rodine Isfeld Designs.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram,
Yeah.
Rodine Isfeld Designs. And I do have a website, rodineisfeld.com. But my website, it's, it makes me crazy. And so
Yeah.
I'm in that way. That's not my realm of creativity. So
Yeah. That's like,
yeah.
yeah.
So
But I
that's the
can
best
contact
way.
you. So best ways to get through. So again, how, because you just explain how, because I noticed you take commissions, you listen to, so what is it? So let's say I came to you. Why don't we do a bit of a role play? What would you ask me, or what would I, because I don't know what I want. So I'm just going to come to you and say, look, I love your art and I'd love you to represent something that represent me. Where would we go from here?
Okay. That's actually a bit tricky because I do the acrylic fluid art, but
Okay.
my oils, I have a very specific a very specific area of specialty with my paintings. So a prairie, northern lights, acrylic fluid art for that. It would be a conversation. I ask clients to find objects that are meaningful to them and colors. So to go around their home and to bring the colors that they love and that they would want in the piece. That's a part of the process because it's really important for me to see visually the exact colors that they like so I can do a palette. But it's also the objects, it's also for me, it helps me to kind of tune into them as well, into their energy so that I can kind of feel into the artwork. So, and we discuss the styles that I do, et cetera, right? I do different techniques. So then we would discuss that and I usually show people the artwork. So that's for the fluid art. With the Northern Lights, it's a little bit simpler in some ways.
Yes.
Right? Because they choose, do they want purple Northern Lights? Do they want the blue? Do they want a mix? And then mountains or forests or, and you know, I just let them know. Again, I still try to feel into their energy. And then let that come through the canvas. And the canvas usually tells me what it needs, right?
Again, you've brought it right
there
back.
Will be, and there will be things I will put into the painting that I didn't know was something that would catch them. And they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know to do that? Well, the canvas told me.
And I love that, the canvas. I remember when you first said it, I remember thinking of Michelangelo. He'd look at the marble and he'd allow the marble, the form would come out of the marble. He wasn't chiseling it in. So it's a similar sort of thing. I love that because what you're doing is you're giving, how I would see it was me, you're giving me some input as well. Yet I'm also trusting you and you're trusting the canvas. You know, isn't that a beautiful energy here? Creative color, love it. Love it. Oh my God, Rodine, this has been so amazing. And thank you for sharing, again, that part of your story that felt very vulnerable because it is showing people, how can I put it? Anything can trigger that sort of response. Anything.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely. And that it's, you know, it's okay to also find the people, find what it is that's going to help you, and to never be afraid to let other people in too, right?
I like that.
That is so hard for us, right?
Yes, it is. Never be afraid to let people in. That's right. And I think that takes courage and discernment because when I was in the height of it, I allowed sometimes thinking they were the right person when in fact they weren't.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, but that takes courage and time and getting to understand yourself. And that comes back to trust as well, doesn't it? Trust in yourself and trust in the world. So, you know, it's a beautiful, but I love that. Never be afraid to let people in. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we come to the end of this beautiful conversation?
I still working through everything for me. It's really been a beautiful experience because I'm getting to know myself in such a deep way now, in a more genuine way. And I now get to offer these deeper parts of myself to the people around me and to the world around me. And, you know, I hope that whoever listens to our conversation today also gets to walk away with some hope.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Work away with, I'm not trying, because yes, it is about having hope, isn't it? It is about that. So thank you again. As I said, I will, everyone who's listening, I will pop the description bar on how to contact Rodine if you want to. Any questions or anything that you'd like to share in the comments, do, and one of us will get back to you. Thank you, my beautiful friend. That was just,
Thank you
you've
so
taken
much,
me
Chantal.
and us on a beautiful journey, weaving that beautiful creativity. Thank you.
Thank you for creating the space for that. Thanks.